All right. Good morning, everyone. Steve, it's good to see you. So let me pop up my slides and we'll get going.
Made it by the skin of my teeth.
There you go. Welcome, sir. All right. So Steve and I are here representing the Open Textbook Collaborative, which is a FIPSI Department of Education grant-funded project here in the state of New Jersey to develop open textbooks. And we're going to tell you a little bit today about our approach, which, for the purposes of this talk, we're calling an Evergreen approach. But really, our goal is to build a sustainable model for OER in the state of New Jersey to particularly to support students in STEM disciplines. And anyways, I'll move to the second slide, which really, and let Steve tell folks a bit about the goals of the project.
Yeah, so basically we came together about 3 years ago, and what we managed to do is put together a grant application to create, disseminate, sustain, and incorporate open educational resources. And what we wanted to target was high-cost STEM career and technical ed programs. We wanted to make it to remove barriers to entering fields for folks of all backgrounds and stuff. So it was done in conjunction with a lot of different entities throughout New Jersey, including pretty much all the community colleges, Rowan University, Rutgers University, NJIT, and we worked as well with the New Jersey Council of Community Colleges, who at the time was pursuing a pathway. I know someone mentioned it from another state in a presentation I was at yesterday. Was doing guided pathways and pathways to kind of get people on an on-ramp to a high-paying career quickly. So we ended up with a $1.44 million 3-year grant. And part of what we need to do is not only just find faculty to create the OER, but we need to seed the statewide courses with OER across the board. And we want to build communities of practice so that we can be sustainable beyond the time frame of the grant. Next slide.
So
go ahead.
For it, Steve. What have we accomplished so far?
I can tell you, Rob, I think we've accomplished more than 25 OER projects funded, 19 have been already completed, piloted, and ready for adoption. That's just one part of the equation, like we were talking about. The second part of our equation is the open publishing module, which is kind of a open source way to create, edit, modify, and do whatever you need to do, house the repository of things of that nature. Part two, also to kind of demonstrate what we're up to, we undertook a robust data collection plan with all of our partner colleges and universities so that we can kind of prove that we had the effects that we say we were going to have. So we're working on that now. And one of the ways we manage this, and we'll talk about this with our communities of practice as well, is we're constantly using continuous improvement to review and revise our workflows to make sure everything is accessible, open, and as easy to use for people now and for years to come.
Great. So just looking right now at the phases of the project, right, we're at the point where we're looking to expand our outcomes through having more professional development and through really getting engagement, not just in the state of New Jersey, actually, but as the fourth, goal highlights, right, it's open. So the goal is to support education around the country, and we've started building connections in neighboring states to hopefully have some pilots in the coming year in, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, right, in our region. So really, but really our materials can be adopted by anybody, anywhere. So just taking a look, kind of reformatting some of what Steve shared, right? We have the OpenNJ repository, which existed prior to the grant, which is sort of driven by Middlesex County College, which is the lead institution on this grant. But through a partnership with Vail, which is our statewide consortium, we have ongoing funding to continue hosting and developing the OpenNJ repository, which is built on a tool called SOBEC, which was developed at the University of Florida many years ago. Folks may have heard of SOBEC CM, which is a content management system. But through the auspices of the grant, we've actually created this open publishing tool that's an add-on module to the OpenNJ repository. And so we're providing training to folks as to how to use this. And for folks who have created OER, now we're moving into the phase where people are adopting those OER projects that we've funded. In some cases, they're adapting them and they're using the open publishing tool to do that. Because it supports revising and remixing of the OER content, right? You want to add a chapter in or swap a chapter out with OER from elsewhere. It's all very easy to do in the open publishing platform. And really this past semester, that's been the focus of what Steve and I have been up to. We've been doing sessions around the state of New Jersey in person and virtual hybrid, to really reach out to faculty and administrators to get the word out about this platform and to make people aware as well of all the content that's been created through the auspices of the grant, because the goal is really to have that sustainability. So, in terms of recruitment, right, we're looking for the faculty who teach these subjects in the state of New Jersey and other states. We're looking for staff who have relevant expertise, the administrators, and I'm sure many of you fall in this category, right? The folks on the ground spreading the good word about OER options that are available to help reduce course costs and make materials more accessible for students. And really the other upside, right? And let's be frank about this, is the intellectual freedom involved in being able to teach the course the way you want rather than hewing to a commercial textbook, right? This is one of the things I hear over and over again from faculty after they use OER, is how much they appreciated really being able to shape the course to their needs and not to the needs of a publisher textbook. And so now we're entering the phase where we're building these communities of practice. So just moving to the next slide, right? What is our vision for communities of practice? So to date, we've already had more than 50 authors involved in the funded projects we funded. Many of the projects were collaborative across multiple institutions. So, I'm thinking here of one of our math textbooks, for example, that we funded involved, I think, faculty members from 3 or 4 different county colleges in the state of New Jersey. And now is being adopted by more and more sections of those classes across those institutions, and also being picked up at other institutions that weren't involved in creating the content. So, that goes to the second piece, right? There's dozens of additional instructors who've adapted and reviewed these materials. So as you could see, it's sort of organically building a cohort of people who are familiar with the materials created through the auspices of the grant, familiar with the OpenNJ platform, and then also increasingly familiar with the open publishing tools so that they know that they can use it to adapt these materials to suit their courses. And then, as I just touched on, right, Steve and I have been doing, our song and dance all around the state, and also at a number of conferences, including conferences that target STEM educators in county and community colleges in our region. To spread the word. And actually many of the faculty authors who have created content for us have been doing the same. So we have that organic word of mouth happening, and really are building up awareness again throughout the state of New Jersey and beyond in the region. So and the nice part for us, right, is that we have this partner in Vail, which is the state academic library consortium, which already has a record of backing OpenNJ, and it's become a natural anchor for the librarians who support the communities of practice for faculty in these disciplines. So let's talk a little bit. And I should say here, there's probably people on this call who could, define or explain communities practice better than me, right? But just to be clear, right, a community of practice is a group of people with a shared purpose and shared expertise who contribute to a shared project, right? And help it evolve and develop over time. And some people hop in and hop out, but there's always a core of people who are, committed to this shared project, right? And in this case, the shared project is a very straightforward one. It's maintaining a body of knowledge and a body of materials that support the education of students, all students, right? I mean, this really is about removing barriers and leveling the playing field for students, particularly in the state of New Jersey, is the primary goal of our grant, but really to do it in a way that sets a model for others. And frankly, we've built on the models that others have provided us. We've relied a lot on materials from the province of British Columbia and the province of Ontario and other states that have been involved in really statewide drives to promote OER and have a statewide strategy. So anyways, coming back to my slide here, one of the things that we house in OpenNJ is a lot of professional development materials, because what we found is, while faculty get excited just by the idea of being able to, help save their students money and make sure more of their students have the materials they need for the course, right? Because as we know, not every student buys the textbooks when they're so expensive, and then that has an impact on students' ability to succeed in the course and learn what they need to learn. So, faculty have a vested interest in making sure that their students have the materials. That gets them in the door, but there's a lot that they need to learn. And that's the thing we found in working with, faculty developing OER, is they need to understand enough about open access and open source and what those terms mean and what it means in terms of, licensing content and making sure they're not using copyrighted materials in ways that are going to get them and us in trouble. And so a lot of these training materials are geared towards faculty to just help them understand the whys and wherefores and how to do's for, OER. But then some of it is more technical and trained towards using the open publishing system and making sure folks understand, how to use that tool successfully. Even though it is pretty straightforward and pretty usable, it still never hurts to have a good explainer video if you get stuck somewhere. So that is part of what is there. So Steve, if you could share the links in the chat, but in the slide we have our OTC website, which is a LibGuide hosted by Middlesex, that has all sorts of information, including the course catalog listing all the courses that we have created OER to support. And then we do have every Thursday at noon open information sessions. So that's the link to the Zoom chat that we have that's open. And then we make presentations like this one to sort of spread the word about our project. And make sure people are aware. So Steve, do you want to bring it home for us?
Yeah, as soon as I get into the
sure. No
you
worries.
can pop the
I've
links
got you
in while
dropping
I'm
links in the
talking.
chat. There you go. We'll do it that
let's
way.
do that. So where are we going here for the win, right? That's where we're at. Basically, for the win, what we're trying to do and what we've are well on our way during this third year is removing these economic and educational barriers that are keeping many in minority and other underserved communities from accessing the careers. So how are we going to wrap all this up? Well, one of the things going on is we are applying for a no-cost extension. So that'll give us some extra time to both collect the data and to sustain and grow our communities of practice in that extra time frame. And as we move along, we hope to see that we have our initial set of classes that we put up there and texts and the ancillaries around them, which turned out to be a more, I'd say, a larger part of the project than we thought at the beginning. So, because that's a lot of what you hear is, well, there's already an OpenStax textbook, but I don't have my test bank. I don't have lectures. So we have faculty that put together things of that nature as well. So that will be going on all throughout the no-cost extension. And with our Adopt, Adapt, Review program, we are hoping to take what we've already created, adopt it, adapt it, and those will go into OpenNJ as well. So you'll see the amount of materials growing, and that will tackle the age-old problem of, well, how do I update these materials? Okay. I see we're getting some questions in the chat as well. So
Excellent.
the first one, we will try and tackle some of these. So the first question we have is describe the data points to be measured. So the main data points we are measuring is, I would say, first of all, trying to do the holy grail of all this, how much are you saving students by switching from a paid textbook or paid materials to a free open access materials. So that's the data point. We're also looking at GPAs for students in classes versus the classes that use OER versus the classes that don't use OER. And we're trying to do that throughout the state by establishing baselines and tracking all the different courses in all their different iterations as well. Does that answer the question for the data points? It's mainly GPA, student success, completion, and cost. So did I miss any, Rob?
I think one that we're not measuring, but is bears mentioning, right, is that we also have funded at least one translation project so that it's translating open materials into Spanish to support, folks who are not English first language participating in a specific course. So that's definitely another, another issue that comes up in terms of barriers, right? Language can be a barrier. And so the nice part about open materials is that they're licensed in a way that they can be translated without additional, well, the cost of paying for a translator, right? But not the
Yeah.
cost of getting a license from a publisher to do a Spanish language edition of the materials, which might be, right? I mean, that's one of the things with commercial content that's not openly licensed. You can't do certain things with it, and translation is one of them. I see a question, what is the platform used by OTC for OER adaptation? So honestly, we have taken a collaborative approach with faculty, and we work with whatever technology they want to use. We have a team of instructional designers and a connection with NJ Edge, which is our regional technology consortium for higher education, to have a project manager so that they work with faculty to support them in whatever technology stack they want to use. The one that we funded right through the grant is an extension to SOBEC, which is an open
The open
source
publishing tool.
repository to
Yeah.
create an open publishing tool built into the OpenNJ repository. So again, the name of the program, if you're looking for the software, is SOBEK, S-O-B-E-K. It's named after the Egyptian god. I forget what he's the god of, but I assume it's something related to repositories or saving knowledge.
Knowledge.
And thanks, Tamara, for sharing the link with Sarah in the chat there.
I have a couple, Rob, I'm seeing a couple other questions here.
Sure.
Here's one from Jackson Harper. What subjects did you discuss in the OA information sessions? What was the turnout, and was it open to anyone in the state? What subjects? We went with a three-pronged approach. So we had it at 3 different sites. So if there was faculty who lived nearby, they came and talked about their particular projects, such as the virtual microscope or their computer systems and security course. So basically, whatever the faculty wanted to talk about, that was part of the programming. And the second part of it was us talking about the open publishing tool, the open publishing system, how to adopt, adapt, and review. And turnout, it was open to anyone in the state. And Rob wants to answer this question live, I'm being told.
Oh, geez. No, sorry. I'm just
I
making
can keep
sure
going
it gets marked. I mean, I can jump on that too, right? I think the turnout was actually bigger than I think we anticipated, right? We had roughly a dozen people at each site. At least actually at Middlesex, I think it was even maybe 2 dozen over the course of the day, because we did morning and afternoon sessions, as Steve mentioned. And so it was a good mix of librarians, administrators, and faculty, including even the chief academic officers at a couple institutions, which is really nice to see when we've got support at that level.
And the president
Um,
popped by. I don't know if you were there for that in the
oh, I think
afternoon.
I missed the
You
president.
missed the prez. Yeah.
There we go.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
So yeah, it was a
anyway,
good mix.
it was a good mix. Um, all right, moving on. I've got a question from Beth Daniel Lindsay here. Do you track any demographic information about students in the courses, such as Pell status, ability, race, etc.?
Yes.
So, Steve, go for that.
Answer.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. We're working with the institutional research folks at every institution, and we have an external project evaluator from Ellucian who also provides support on dealing with the data. But I will share, that is obviously all anonymized, but it is
Yeah.
done in a way that we can track individual students across multiple courses, both courses that were, using OER supported by the grant and also not, right? Because the idea is to get enough data to really demonstrate that, students in those courses using OER funded by the grants either have equal or better outcomes than students who did not have access to those materials, right? So that's the goal of evaluating that data.
Okay. And there was one more question inside the chat itself. What are some of the economic and educational barriers you see that limit participation by minority and underserved communities? Well, the economic barriers would be lack of funds to purchase expensive textbooks that help you get into the STEM fields, which are in many cases highly technical. Some educational barriers. Well, we did just go through the pandemic, so a lot of stuff that would have been taught in the classroom had to, go to online, and that's where I think our virtual microscope really kicked in, because that's something that students can use if they can't get to a lab, per se, but they'll still get a similar experience to what someone is in the classroom. It's reducing that barrier. If you have a transportation barrier and maybe can't get to a class, you'd be able to still learn how to use a microscope and things of that nature. Any others you can think of, bro?
I mean, just right stuff that we heard, in the keynote yesterday from Rajiv, right? That first generation students are less likely to know the strategies for, getting access to textbooks without paying the full, list price, right? And finding, used editions or, previous editions or, right, all those different workarounds that, folks who are in an environment where everybody has been or goes to college, it's very different, as we know. So, just again, evening out, right? Everybody has access to all the materials from day one.
What more would you want?
There you go.
All right. I think we're about out of time. If there are any last questions, fire away.
I mean, I just want to thank everybody for showing up. I really love seeing that there are so many folks in attendance. I want to encourage you, wherever you are, please check out our project website, check out OpenNJ. Again, we are eager to hear if folks are adopting or adapting the materials that have been funded through this grant, and to have folks contribute to those communities of practice that we're building. In the various subject areas that we've supported through the grant. So thanks, Maura.
Great.
I appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Maura. And everybody, please feel free
right.
to drop into office hours. It's always a good time.
Yes, it's always fun to chat with folks and hear about what they're doing.
Yep.
And how we might be able to help.